right, welcome everybody to our Global VA stand up for the month of December. I can't believe I'm saying that. I can't believe we're in December already. I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope that you guys had family over and ate a lot of food and had a lot of fun. I certainly did. I had a great time. I'm Jamaican, so I have to add some Jamaican flavor to the Thanksgiving. So we had turkey, of course, and then we had jerk chicken because I love jerk chicken and I'm good at making it. So we jerk chicken and we ate a lot of stuff. And then my mom was here. And after we ate, my mom started to cry. And I was like, why are you crying? She's like, oh, because all the people in Jamaica know that they don't have, some people don't have a place to stay. And she got really sad. And we had to cheer her up. I was feeling sad too, but we do what we can. So if you guys have any connection, I think last time we spoke, I told you guys that we were going to send something to Jamaica, which we are worked on. But if you have anything extra that you think you could ship to Jamaica or send, I encourage you to do that. There's a number of um, places that are taking donations in the different states. So whichever state you're in, I'm sure you'll be able to find one because there are people who are still suffering from that horrible, horrible, horrible hurricane that we had. So that's what we have. All right, we'll have a lot to talk about today. Today is going to be focused on the 2025 Business Analyst Year in Review. But before we get into that, I want to start off like I always do, finding out from you guys where you guys are all from. So if you want to put in the chat, I know some of you are on the Google Meet. If you want to put in the chat where you're from, and where you're watching us from, if you're live also, then that would be great so we can see how global we are today. So go ahead and put that in the chat so I can shout you guys out. And if you want to join, if you're on the live and you want to join our meeting, we have a Google Meet that's going on as well. You go to carolise.com, there'll be a pop-up and you'll be able to find the link to the Google Meet from there. It's just going to ask you for your email and stuff like that. And then you can get the Google Meet link so that you can join and actually have a chance to ask a question. The good thing about my lives is that I don't like talking to myself. I don't know how creators can just get on here and just talk. I love to talk to people. So I love having you guys here where you can actually ask a question, any question about the business analyst role, and I am more than happy to answer. So put in the chat where you guys are from. I see UK. I see, let's see, all these messages coming up. Sharon from the UK. Welcome, Sharon. I think you've been here before. I think I've seen you before. Leticia is a part of our back office club. Sorry, say it again. Say it again, Sharon. Oh. Okay, good. Awesome. Let me turn this up also. Oops. I think I lost you guys. Hold on. I lost the people on the Google Meet. Let me make sure I can get back in there. Oops. Hold on, guys. I pressed something and now I lost them all. Gotta join again. Okay. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. I was trying to look at the chat. Sorry about that. I was trying to look at the chat and then I ended up pressing something and it all went. So yes, thank you for sharing that, Sharon. And Leticia was saying is a member of the back office club. Thank you for being here. I also see Debbie. Welcome, Debbie. You're always here with us. Phyllis, welcome. Dami's here. Dami, I hope you're feeling better. Thank you for joining. Annie, also here. Thank you. Sharon and a lot more other people. Thank you all for joining. I appreciate you guys so much. All right. So other people will be joining. So we're going to get started. So I want to talk today mainly about the year 2025 for business analysts. So people might say, well, we just started December. So we have a month left before the year ends. So aren't you a little bit early? But I think what I have to share, I don't think it's going to change much over the next 30 days. So I think it's okay. So I have done a study over the year of what we've been doing in our career. And some of the highlights that I want to share with you, I have documented in this report called the 2025 Business Analyst um, year in review, and it's available for free download on the website, the Back Office Club. So if you go to the backofficeclub.org, BACKOFFICECLUB.org, there'll be a pop up and it'll ask you for your email. And then you'll be able to download the free version of what we're going to talk about today. So it's a small read. It's not very thick, as you can see. And I've gone through here to talk about what I have observed, and also I've gotten sources and other data points to back this up of what the changes have been in the business analyst career. And the reason I did that is because year over year, I see like there's a jobs report, there's a LinkedIn report, there's even an IIBA report that comes out, but I find them lacking a little bit in terms of focusing on the BA career, specifically for the things that you guys who have joined the Global BA Stand Up over the year have talked about, right? So sometimes with the IIBA, no shade to the IIBA, I love them, they're great. But sometimes they talk a lot more about the certifications and which certification you should get. And that's okay too. But it's so global, it's so wide, it doesn't handle the specific issues that you guys have, like the salaries, like the job market, like what the employers are looking for. Those are things that you care about. And I didn't see any place where it was consolidated for you to just get a good snapshot of what's going on in your career. And I thought, okay, well, I guess I'll have to do it. So I want you to go to the Back Office Club. There'll be a pop up. Download the free version, and you can have it to just go over. It's not, I'm not charging you anything for this, so it's available for everybody for free. So I'll go through it a little bit in our session today, and then I'll open up the floor for those of you who have questions to ask, as we normally do. But I really want to get through some of this. So in the first sections, I talk about just in general, what was the year like for us as business analysts, right? So I know you might be feeling different ways because I know a lot of you have been looking for jobs, you've been searching, you've been applying, you've been upskilling, and some people have been able to get hired and some people haven't. At the Back Office Club specifically, we had launched back in July our LANBA, which is Land a BA Job by the End of the Year. And you can still download that roadmap right now. Anyway, you can go to the Back Office Club, and on the page, the first landing page, you will see an option for you to download that LANBA roadmap, which is also for free. So lots of goodies from Carolis today, right? So in the LANBA roadmap, which we launched in July, we were targeting it at our members, but we opened it up to everybody to say, what is it that you need to do practically, hands-on, to be able to position yourself to land a job by the end of the year. And so we've been working on that. Some of our members are still working on that, and we've had successes. There have been people in our group that has gotten hired working through the LANBA. And I think it's just one of those things that you have to keep working at, right? So even though we're at the end of the year, they still have goals that you have to accomplish if you haven't gotten a job yet. So you can still apply those principles that we have in that roadmap to keep you into 2026 to land a job as early as you can in the next year. So I encourage you to go download that. But for 2025, we found that there was a lot of interesting things that happened in our career, which I talk about here. We had an evolution in our role as a BA. We talk about some of that. We had salaries change, right? We had a very, very tough job market, and I'll talk to you about some of the reasons for that in a minute. And we also had, for the first time, the business analyst role being seen more as a strategic role that aligns so closely with leadership and with the progress of the organization. Whereas in previous years, we've had the BA almost like a kitchen sink, like an admin kind of role, like, you just take notes over there. People weren't sure what you did, right? They just had you, you have a role there, but it's not always very clearly defined. In 2025, that structure kind of changed, and a lot of people started to really value and recognize the BA as a very important part of the project, right? So, excuse me, 2025 was the first year that I noticed, since I've been a BA, that we were consistently treated as strategic partners and not just note takers. So we got a lot more respect in 2025, and I found that to be across the board, across different industries. And I think part of it has to do with the complexity of projects that we're working on, and also the introduction of AI, when AI comes in and you know that you really have to be innovative, you have to do all of these things to push the envelope that's not been pushed before. I think that's when they started to really realize the value of the business analyst. And even though people thought that the AI was going to take away your job, we'll talk about that in a minute, but it didn't. As you can see, a lot of it didn't. It actually helped you to be more efficient, but it didn't actually replace you. So we'll talk about that too. So key highlights of 2025 that I have in this report: strategic leadership role. So we were positioned better to be in a leadership position, right? We had salary and job opportunities that grew in 2025. We had global recognition, so more globally recognized as a career. Before, when you say you're a business analyst, people are like, what? People still say that to some extent right now, but I find within the corporate setting, when you say you're a BA, people know what you meant. They understand that role now, and they didn't in previous years. We also had core competencies in AI and in governance. So AI is the word of the year, right? Everybody's talking about AI. In April, we had Patrick Iwa, if you guys remember, he came on. He was a member of our, he was a guest for our Global BA Stand Up in April, and he is an AI project manager, and he talked to us about some of the AI tools, and you guys can go back and watch that. So I've noticed that AI is just everywhere. Everybody's talking about it. But if you really sit back and think about it, how has AI changed the way you work? And it's more about helping you to become more efficient. It hasn't, in my opinion, revolutionized anything. It hasn't given you anything new necessarily. It's just made what you were doing before better and faster. So I still think that instead of worrying too much about being able to use AI, I think what you should focus on is API, right? Do you understand how APIs work? That's going to be more impactful in your interviews and getting a job than really being obsessed with the AI, right? It's good to know the AI. It's good to work more efficiently, of course, but your knowledge set will be you'll be able to be more convincing in an interview when you can talk about how you can write API user stories, how you can work with backend developers on APIs as opposed to AI, right? So that's just one little nugget right there. We also had a growing market for business analyst training. So there's a lot of courses and boot camps popped up over the year. And that's a good sign. That means that they've recognized the popularity of business analysts and want to help to train people to become BA. And it's also good for people who don't have a formal degree to be able to break into the career, kind of a shortcut, right? Without having to do a 4-year degree, you kind of get exposed to this career, and it's more practical, it's more useful, it's more beneficial as well. So AI integration automation was a big topic for 2025. You couldn't go anywhere without it. Everything you're doing, AI was involved. If you're doing a project, they're talking about how to make it better with some kind of AI, whether they're using Copilot, even regular Chat GPT. There's so many Gemini. Teams has its own AI. You're doing meetings, you didn't have to worry about taking the notes as much because the AI was recording it for you and taking the notes for you. So we definitely were inundated in 2025 with AI. But again, I haven't seen like a big revolution that it caused. It just made what I would have done anyway faster and better and quicker. So, you still need the BA, but you just you can maybe you need less. So I would say in a year defined by AI, which is 2025, it wasn't technology that led the change. It was the analysts who knew how to use it. So that's very important. We also had expansion in process intelligence and automation. So those of you who are doing a lot more automation in your process flows, like using RPAs, that also grew, especially in manufacturing and supply chain industries. And then we also had a strong salary growth. So let me talk about that for me. I'm going to go into depth about salary in a minute, but let me just give you a preface to that. So I think in 2025, we did have strong salary growth, but it was mainly for those who were more of an expert BA. I didn't see a big jump in the salary for newcomers or people who are just junior BAs. I felt like that kind of stayed kind of flatlined a little bit. I didn't see a lot of increase in even mid level. But if you're an expert and you're a specialist BA, then you could command more salary. And people have in 2025. So we'll talk about salary in a minute and why I think that is. The other things that I found in 2025 that I have in this report, by the way, if you're just joining, I'm talking about this 2025 Business Analyst Year in Review report, which I have available for free on the website. Go to backofficeclub.org. There'll be a pop up. You just click on it, download it, and it's yours, right? It's just put your email in and we send it to your email. That's all. So we found that in 2025, there was a strong push towards agile. So if you're working in waterfall methodology, your company is starting to say we need to be agile, we need to be agile, right? And they just say that, but sometimes they don't know what that means. Some companies have hired like agile coaches and consultants to help them transition, and some people are just doing it however, right? So what we found was in 2025, quote unquote agile really meant hybrid. They weren't really agile. A lot of people are saying that they're agile, but they're not really running a full agile shop. And if you're new to the field and you don't understand how agile is supposed to work, you get into the company and you think, oh, yeah, this is a pure agile. It's not. Most of the time, it's not. It's a hybrid. People are not abandoning the documentation that they think they need, especially if you're in one of those um, retail, not retail, like uh, manufacturing or banking or healthcare, they really are committed to the documentation. So there's a lot of documentation happening before you even go to user stories. So it's really a hybrid blend. And they're rarely doing strict scrum, very rarely. Retail might do strict scrum, but a lot of the other places that are more bigger, larger organizations are doing a lot more hybrid. So teams are blending agile, different types of agile, even Kanban mixed with Scrum, right? And they're writing a lot of BRDs. So it's becoming a more just blended environment. So I would encourage you, if you're looking to join the field, to be proficient in both. You can't just become an agile BA and just that's it. You really have to still understand how to write requirements and run through workshops and work with BRDs, right? At the same time, even though we're agile, we're going more to hybrid, people the companies are moving away from this heavy documentation also. So it's kind of a blend, right? So they don't want you to spend so much time on just documenting. They want to see the output, which is the working software. So they're moving away from the heavy documentation and they think they're moving towards agile, but they're really moving towards a hybrid, which is what it is. But it's great. It's one step before they get into full agile, so we'll take it. But these giant BRDs, these 20-page architecture documents, all of these things have become kind of mundane. And also because of AI, where you can do it much faster, they're becoming shorter and shorter because they're getting the efficiency out of the AI tools as well. AI, I'm not going to talk about AI a lot this time. It's going to be a lot of AI in the 2025 year in review because that's been the major theme of this year. So AI has become not just a methodology. It's a part of the tool set now. It's a part of how you work. Like you're just naturally gravitating towards AI. I think ChatGPT came out in 2022. So we're only 3 years in and it's now taking over how we work, right? So it's not going away, okay? It's just gonna be here. So you're gonna have to learn how to work with it as a part of the toolkit that you're working from. The other thing that we found in 2025 was that there is a shift from working with project managers and more working with product owners. So the traditional PMO office, where you have this bunch of PMs in this office and they're running this big program, it's still happening, but the BA is interfacing less and less with the PMO. They're interfacing more directly with the product owners because again they're moving towards what they consider to be agile. So there's more interaction with the product owners and the concept of a project. The project management paradigm is becoming less and less frequent. It still happens, but we found that in 2025 there's a bigger shift away from that and towards more of an agile environment. And then BAs were also collaborating a lot more with data teams. So part of it is the job market was asking BAs to do more, right? And part of what they want is for you to become more proficient with data, doing SQL queries, getting all this data, doing analysis. So you're blending into being a BA and being a data analyst at the same time. They kind of wanted that in the market. And we saw that more BAs were interfacing with data teams much more in 2025 than they did in previous years. All right, so salaries. What everybody want to hear about? Salaries in 2025. What did we find? So we found that over the past couple of years, there's been a growth in the salaries for BAs for sure. Pay growth has been fairly consistent year over year, but in 2025, we found that particularly for the expert BA or the specialist BA, it went up a little bit. So if you had expert knowledge in things, let's say like commercial banking, Salesforce specific, so if you're a specialist of any kind in the BA field, you could command more salaries. It doesn't mean that if you're not a specialist, you couldn't. It just means that the salary growth for those who are not specialists was kind of flat lined, right? Now, the question we asked, and this I did a whole video on this, and Patrick Giwa that we talked about earlier, he did a whole post on this on LinkedIn that went pretty viral in our world, right? Our BA world. And it was about should you be a specialist BA or a generalist BA, right? And you'd say, well, if I can get more money as a specialist, then why shouldn't I be a specialist? And that's fine. But if you're just starting out, what would you specialize in? How can you overnight become a specialist? It's very difficult to start out as a specialist, is the point. So I still recommend that you be a generalist BA, learn how to do BA in general, get your first BA job, and then you specialize. You want the money, but you got to take it in steps, right? So that's what I think would be the best. So in 2025, the average salary for a BA in the US was 85,000, just regular BA, right? And if you were more specialized and more senior, it went up to 120, 30, 40, 50, etc. But the baseline is 85,000, which is not different from what we've had over the last maybe 3 years or so. So there wasn't much change there. But for the specialists, it definitely grew a little bit more. People earning 150 going up 160, 170, depending on your specialization and the years of experience that you have. So for some people, 85,000 is still good, right? It's still a good starting point, and that's just salary. Again, you could have total compensation where you have days off. Some people it's 20 days, your healthcare, all these other stuff, depending on the company that you work with, right? So that's a good baseline. And if you are a contracted person, you have a contract job, you should have a little bit more than that because you're not given the healthcare benefits that a full-time employee would get. So I found that salaries in the US, and I only had data for the US, so I'm sorry for those of you in the UK and other countries, I don't have your data. But for the US at least, I think 85 was a good starting place for a lot of people. The economy's got really bad. I didn't include the economy here because it would just gone. It would have been much bigger of a report. But the economy does have a lot to do with how much we're getting paid and how obviously how much work there is for us and how many people are getting employed. And so we really have to turn around this economy. Food prices are too high, rent is too high, mortgages are too high, everything is really high. So even though you're making this money, it's not even enough for a lot of people to survive at a decent standard of living because everything else is just so high in the US. So that's a challenge. Now, the top industries that hired BA in 2025, we had a change. So in the studies I've done before, the top industry usually is IT, and then we had finance and banking, and then we had healthcare, then we had consulting, then we had government, and then we had manufacturing and supply chain. That used to be the norm over the last couple of years. That has changed in 2025. So now in 2025, what we're having is sorry, somebody is calling me here. Hold on, guys. Can you guys still see me and hear me? Yes?
Can hear you, can't see you.
Can see me now? Okay, great. Okay. So in 2025, we have banking and finance becoming the number one employer of business analysts. So they have taken over where IT used to be, IT and software. So the banks are eating software, like they're building out software at a faster pace, and they need more BAs to work on these large projects with very complex business rules and lots of complexity. So they're hiring a lot more BAs. And it's because the banks know something that we don't know. They know that once they build these systems, they'll have it forever, right? Meaning the systems are built to make the bank money directly. Like it's a money making machine. It churns over money and it just runs in the background. So they'll have to maintain it, obviously, whatever you build, you have to maintain. But it's such a financial incentive to build these systems because it's building how they will just automatically make money. Just run through your account and take these amounts and put in the other accounts, and boom, your account is full of money, right? So why wouldn't they invest in these kind of programs? So yes, banking has taken over as the number one employer of business analysts. So that's interesting. I work in finance and banking myself, and I see these projects up close, and they're huge, and they're expensive, and they're complex. But the banks definitely are doing a lot of them. So that would be great if you guys can tap into that. As a back office club right now, we're doing a real world project on retail banking where we're learning how to write requirements around, transfers and payments and stuff like that. So our team has been very, very excited to learn how to do this and to think through the kinds of complexities that you'll face in a project like that. So if you want to join the back office club, now would be a great time because that's what we're working on: payments and banking style projects. Number two is IT software. So IT just got kicked out by banking to be the number two employer of BAs. Then we had healthcare. So healthcare is big because there's also a lot of energy and effort being put towards creating systems that will manage with all the regulations and all the patient care and all that stuff. So healthcare is also a very big employer of business analysts. So if you're a nurse, if you're in healthcare in any capacity and you want to transition into a BA role, I think that's a great choice because they do hire a lot of BAs, and having the background in healthcare will help you to become competitive. Then we had retail. So retail jumped out of nowhere. We never used to have BAs in retail as much. We had them, but they were way down in the bottom of the list because typically retail companies would just buy a software tool already out of the box and just plug it up somehow with some back-end engineers, and that's it. They didn't really need a lot of BAs to be thinking about the process and the stuff like that. It came out of the box already. So, but now we find that they're shifting towards hiring the BA to work on these retail style projects because it's probably better for them in the long run than using a third party tool that they keep having to pay. So I think that's probably what happened there. Government also, so a lot of government projects have opened up where they want to streamline, they want to be more efficient, and so government projects have also become a good employer. Most of the time, though, for government, especially in the US, it's a contract. It's a contract job, but they pay pretty well. So don't be afraid of the contract jobs. Right? Consulting fell. So consulting used to be way up like your Deloitte's, your Accenture, your Capgemini. But what has happened is because of the economy, a lot of companies haven't been hiring, I would assume, as much consulting. Consulting is very expensive to help them with these transformations. And so they've been just doing it themselves. And I think that's why the consulting market for BAs have kind of dropped a little bit. And then at the bottom of the list that I have, we have supply chain and manufacturing, which in a way I can understand that because manufacturing tends to just do the same thing it's been doing for years, right? There's not a lot of change there, but they are hiring BA, but they're not the top employers of business analysts. Okay, so, job market. Let's talk about the job market. Oh my goodness. So the job market in 2025 was rough. Y'all know this. It was rough. It's rougher than we expected. It's rougher than the years before. In the years before, we had a lot of people that were laid off and they flooded the market and everybody thought they're going to be a BA. And so a lot of people out there just creating fake resumes and running around trying to get employers to hire them. And employers, some of them did hire them and then quickly found out that they didn't know what they're doing. And some of them got fired really fast and they had to go back in the hiring cycle. So the employers have been burned and now they're very, very strict on who they hire because a lot of people kind of just slid through the cracks and then it didn't work out. So I encourage you to be more knowledgeable and to really do the right thing to get the job because when you get the job, you want to really perform well in the job. It doesn't make sense to try to get the job just to get the money. It's not gonna last. They're gonna find you out. So it's okay to fake it until you make it. That's fine. It's okay to not be sure and still apply. That's fine. But if you're not studying, you're not trying to learn, you're not joining things at the back office club, you're not improving yourself, you're just making a fake resume and jumping in there, that's not going to work. That is a recipe for failure, right? So you have to keep learning, you have to keep upskilling, you have to keep practicing so that when you get the job, you actually can perform in the job. That would be my recommendation. So in 2025, what happened? We had higher employer expectations. So it wasn't just that the job market was hard, there were jobs, but the employers wanted more. The expectation was higher. So employers increasingly wanted BAs who could blend. They wanted you to be like a unicorn. They wanted more out of you. They wanted a BA who could also double as a scrum master. They wanted a BA who could also be a product owner. They wanted a BA who could be a data analyst. They wanted a BA who could be a project engineer. They wanted a BA who could be an automation analyst. They wanted a blended role. And even the ones who didn't want a blended role, sometimes when you were looking for the job, you actually couldn't find the BA role because it was named, it had a different name. It was called like program analyst or coordinator or something that you didn't know what you're looking for, right? So if you read the job description, the job title, it was business analyst that they wanted, but they didn't know how to name it. So you didn't find it. And so somebody else probably got the job who probably wasn't as qualified as a BA than you, but you couldn't find it. So they named it wrong. Also, there was a lot of increased competition. Increased competition. What does that mean? It means that a lot more people got aware of the BA job and people are switching careers. So it was just too much. There's a lot of, not too much, but there's a lot of people in the market. So you had to be much, much better to move through the interview process. So couple that with the employers expecting more. And then if you join, you don't have a lot of experience, you're just coming into the field. The kinds of questions they were asking you was like, easy to spot that you're not as experienced, right? So the employers as well as the level of competition that you're facing was much harder in 2025 than it was in previous years. The other thing too was that they didn't have a lot of entry level positions. So in the business analyst field, one of the things that we struggle with is how are people supposed to learn how to be a BA if you don't give them like starting positions? Everything is senior, everything is, lead BA, everything is principal BA. Made it hard for people to break in. So what we have to do, and this is what I talk about in my Landa BA job at the end of the year, is practicing how to be a BA so that you can talk at that level, so you can have the discussions, you can have the approaches. And we teach a lot of that at the back office club. So again, if you want to learn those things, you have to come into the back office club. But it was very difficult to find entry level jobs. It's always been difficult, but 2025 was just, I didn't see any. There's very, very few entry level jobs. So you have to start as a BA and up, and that made it harder for people. So yeah, the job market was harder in 2025, not because it didn't have demand, but because they just expected more. So you have to upskill more. You have to do more to really get into those interviews and to stay there. So how hard was it really to get a job in 2025? How hard was it? It was very hard, right? So one, you had an oversupply of junior BAs, right? Because a lot of you guys coming out of the boot camps, coming out of these programs, and you're like, okay, yes, I'm ready to go. I did my capstone project. Let me go get this job. So there's a lot of you, a lot of people. Especially if you're an immigrant, you're coming in, you want to break into tech. The first thing they tell you to do is be a BA. That's it, right? So there's a lot of influx of junior applicants. And then the senior applicants were more in demand because of their specialization, because of their skills. So what the junior applicants were doing is just changing their resume and say, I'm a senior because everybody wants senior. So I'm going to just make myself a senior. But the problem was when you get into the interview, the senior interview is not the same as the junior interview. It's a lot more questions. So it became more frustrating and people really got distracted, not distracted, but like they lost hope. A lot of people. I talked to one person who said she had done 14 interviews, 14, and she got called back for maybe like three of them, and none of them. Sorry, she got 14 interviews, first interviews. She got called back for three to go to the second level, and then she never made it past that. And when I talked to her, I was like, but this person is knowledgeable. She's worked as a QA. She's had background in programming. She knows how to work on projects. What is it? Like I really was invested to figure out what's going on. And after I was talking to her, I saw some of the reasons why people are not moving it forward. One is when she's explaining something, it was very, very difficult to follow her train of thought. It was very difficult. Sometimes you can be so detailed, you can be so knowledgeable when you're in front of the computer doing the work, but when you need to talk about what you've done and how explain to somebody else how you add value, sometimes people fall apart. So the skill of interviewing is very important for you to break in. Knowing to do the work, and again, this is not just for new BAs. New BAs struggle, but even seasoned BAs struggle because you just know how to do it, but you don't know how to talk about doing it and explain it in a way that somebody who has no idea about your experience can be convinced that you can do the same thing for them in their job. So the communication was a problem, and also presence. People have to feel connected to you, likability. All of these things are very important. So those are some of the things that made it much harder in 2025 to get a job. And the other thing I want to call out, which people are not going to like this, IIBA don't come for me, but I'm gonna tell the truth right now. The certifications were not helping you. It wasn't helping you. I'm sorry to say it. But in 2025, whether it's ECBA, CBAP, CCBA, PMIBA, Agile certs, employers didn't care anything about it. It was nice. It was okay, cool, you have it. But you need to come in that interview and show them what you can do more than what are all the accolades that you have. So the certs, they weren't cutting it. They weren't making you a more valuable interviewee than the other person. It wasn't giving you an edge over anybody else in the interview. So certification does not equal to getting the job. That's just the truth of the matter. IIBA don't come for me, okay? So what employers cared about was the portfolio of the real work that you've done. If you have work samples, they cared about talking about the case studies of the projects that you've worked on. They cared about examples of how you work on projects, your approaches. They want you to explain to them how you'd handle these difficult situations. That's what they cared about. You could have gone in there with a folder full of certificates that would not have helped you. So, not to say you shouldn't get certified, but I'm just saying, don't rely on the certification to be the end all be all of getting the job. In the BA space, it's not as important as in other spaces. Like if you are into hardware, you better get all those certs. Okay. If you're a project manager, you better get the PMI cert. But the business analyst, it's not changing the outcome of your job prospects. So that's just that's just a fact. All right, other things I want to go over real quick was worldwide awareness. So we became much more known as a profession in 2025 than before. And if I look at, I did a study on Google Trends, and we saw that we had a lot of awareness. People were searching for business analysts all over the world. Obviously, the countries that had the biggest ones would be India, Canada, the United Kingdom, the US, Australia, South Africa, almost all of Europe, different countries, but UK being the top one, and China, Russia, Indonesia, New Zealand, right? So there definitely has been much more awareness of what we are, who we are, what we do than in previous years. In the US in particular, we had a lot more interest in California, District of Columbia, New York, New Jersey, and Virginia. Those are the top 5 places for business analysts. Obviously, California, because you have Silicon Valley. One thing I noticed is that in previous years, we had Texas. Texas used to be big, it was like number 3. But right now, Texas is not even the top 5, right? So DC has somehow jumped into number 2 position, and that's because there's a lot of government projects in DC that require business analysts because the government has started to do more of um, being efficient, and a lot of that comes with having BA. So DC jumped in there. New York has always been there. New York used to be number 2, now it's number 3. New Jersey, Virginia, and then I think Texas is down there. So yeah, there's been a change in the places in the US that has more demand for business analysts. For the UK, England, obviously, top for business analysts. Scotland next, Northern Ireland, and then Wales. So, but the thing about the UK is that they've always had much more awareness of business analysis than the US. So if you look at the trends, it's much more steady at a higher level than the US has been. So US kind of grew, but the UK has been consistently been aware of the business analyst role, and they have great programs like BCS and other institutions that help to train BAs. So that's probably one of it. For Canada, where are my Canadians at? Canada. So we got Ontario, number 1 on top in terms of the awareness of business analysts and where they hire business analysts the most. Then we have Manitoba, Nova Scotia, Alberta, British Columbia. And then there are some provinces that have no interest at all in business business analysis. So if I didn't list them out here, then they have no clue what this career is about. So if you live in those other provinces, I think it's Yukon and Northern Territories or something, they don't care about your career. Okay, you need to find a. You need to go to Ontario. You need to go to Calgary because that's where your career is much more appreciated and where you find more jobs. So there you have it. So that's kind of a lot of what we talked about in this report. I went into some other details here about how you what are your prospects for 2026. But again, I encourage you to go to backofficeclub.org and download this report just to have the digital copy of it, and you can go through it at your own leisure to see what it is that we found to be the trends in our career for the year 2025. Okay, so I'm going to open up the floor to anybody who have any questions. I know I've been talking for a minute, but do you guys have any questions that you want to ask? Anything about the BA role, the BA career? Any questions at all? The floor is yours. And I hope the people on the call can actually hear as well. Let me know, guys, if you can hear if you're on the live. Yes, go ahead. Oops. Trying to turn the volume up, but instead I ended up exiting the call. Oh my goodness. Let me make sure I don't exit again. This is kind of crazy. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to get back to the call that I was in just now. Sorry, I'm back. Not going to touch it again. I promise. Sting fingers. Okay, go ahead, Krupta. You were saying.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes. Actually, thank you for setting up this global. So I have one question.
Yeah.
So what is generally average timeline for getting a BA who has 2 years of experience in it means real time experience in IT? I know this is little but tricky question, but I just wanted to know and want to compare with me also. Suppose you don't have a job since August 2025. So generally, how long it will take to get a new job in IT as a business analyst?
Well, it depends. Let me repeat the question. So the question was, how long is it taking you to get a new job in the business analyst field? And in her particular case, you were out of a job since August of 2025, right? So it depends on your level of experience. Like I said earlier, if you have more experience, it's going a little bit better for you in terms of the job prospects. But to be honest, based on my research in 2025, people are taking 6 months to 1 year to get a new BA job. 6 months to 1 year.
Okay, okay.
Now, obviously, there could be exceptions, right? People can get it faster or not, even a little bit longer, unfortunately. But that's what's happening. I wish I could give you shorter time, but that's what's happening. People are taking that long to get a new job in our field, and it's not just our field. I think all of the corporate fields are like that a little bit. Only jobs that are getting faster are like um, retail jobs or something that's really have a faster, higher turnover. But corporate jobs are taking longer to get them for sure. It's about economy,
Okay. Thank you for the answer.
Okay, thank you, Krupta. All right, Elaji, go ahead. You were here last time, weren't you? Welcome back. Go ahead, Elaji.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I was wondering now with the AI integration, what tools are maybe very required for a BA to know and a new BA or just for a BA? What tools that help facilitate user stories, for example, or just in general from your experience?
So it's a very broad question. It's a good question because I find that the AI world has become so wild. I can't even keep up with it. It's just a tool every time I turn on is a new tool. For me personally, I use Copilot. I use Mermaid AI to do some of my diagrams. I use Gemini for my notes. I use we have a internal because I'm in banking, so a lot of things that I need to use I can't use like ChatGPT because it can expose some of the data to the web. So there's an internal AI that we've built for our organization that they encourage the BAs to use. It helps us to write user stories, write BRDs. It helps us to come up with questions based on certain features that we're building. So I wish I could give you one specific list, like this is all the things that you need, but it depends on what you're working on and what your company allows. We did a live in April, like we mentioned with Patrick, where he went through a lot of the different AI tools that he recommends. So I would say that you could check that video out. But those are the ones that I use personally that help me to get through my day. In my personal life, I use ChatGPT a lot. I use ChatGPT for almost everything. And then I use like Nano Banana for pictures and changing pictures and stuff like that. So I do use a lot of AI tools personally, but in terms of professionally, I think Copilot is a great one. If you're allowed to use ChatGPT, that's fine, and Gemini and the other ones are also good too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for user stories,
Mhm.
is Jira still one of the main tools that is used for user stories? And is it required for the BA, the generalist BA, to know how to use Jira?
Yeah, I would recommend highly, highly, highly to learn how to use Jira if you're going to be a serious BA. Because as a professional BA, you're almost expected to know this tool. There are other tools out there that the people can use for user story writing, Azure DevOps being the other one, the major competitor for Jira. But I would still strongly suggest getting familiar with Jira. It is the standard or it's the best tool that enterprise companies are using to manage their agile processes. Even if you're not agile, just managing tasks, they use it a lot. So if you're not aware of how to use Jira, I think you'd be at a disadvantage as a generalist BA, even as a specialist. So it's a very good tool. Um, I have lots of videos on YouTube about Jira, about writing user stories. The back office club, we use Jira for our professional members. We also use Azure DevOps. So it's a very important tool. I can't stress it enough. I think if you're not learning how to use Jira as a BA, you're not going to get very far because even though you can talk about it in the interview, they wanna know that you have proficiency in this tool. I think it's very important for you to be successful as a BA. Yeah.
Okay.
Also, Jira has its own AI. I think it's called Rovo. I could be wrong. It's Rovo or Rova or something like that. That helps. Yeah, that helps you to do stuff much faster. Also, so the AI. The beauty about the AI is that each of these tools have their own AIs. Like if you do the diagram, Lucidchart has its own AI. Jira has its own AI. All of these tools have their own AI specific to that tool to also help you to do things much better and much faster. Kind of like Copilot for Microsoft products. So yeah. All right, thank you, Debbie. Welcome, Debbie. Debbie's a back office club member. Thank you, Debbie. She joined last month, I think. So yeah, we've been having fun with Debbie over there at the back office club. Go ahead.
I've been learning lots of things over the last month. Anyway, I am wondering about because I'm looking for a job. I was laid off in July, and I'm seeing a lot of things like Salesforce, and there's more. I get more the specialized software. How does someone go about learning how to use that?
Yeah, so the problem with the specialized software, which is why I don't recommend becoming a specialist as a start, is because you need data. Like for example with Salesforce, they'll give you like a small business version that you can pay like $25 a month or something like that. I don't know the price. That was the last time I looked at it. And you get in there, you can learn how to use their different like the opportunities and sales and leads and all of these different objects that they have, which is great for your exposure, but it doesn't have enough data for you to really see how this is used in the real world. There's some demo data in there, which maybe you could use, but the tool by itself is not as valuable until you know how you're applying the tool and what you're using the tool for. And unfortunately, some of that you don't get to see until you have the job. So this is the reason why I think you should be aware of some of these tools. Let's say if there's a free version or you can pay a small amount of money to just go play around with it, that's okay. So at least you know what they're talking about when they say, okay, how would you add a leads? What would you do with your leads to convert them to opportunities? You can know what they're talking about. You can be in the world, but you're not going to become a specialist it's hard to become a specialist on your own, is the point.
Right.
So if you really want to, if you're adding Salesforce, you're like, okay, that could be an area I specialize in, then I would say pay for, the basic package to get in there to see how it's structured. Maybe do a course on Salesforce, and so you can try to get closer to it. But it's very difficult to to overnight become a specialist. You have to get the job as a generalist BA. And if they have Salesforce, then you try to work on those projects. And then you can use that exposure and the data that will be in that organization to see how you work on that. The first time I was exposed to Salesforce was through that very way. I worked for a company and we were using Salesforce and they didn't have an admin. And I volunteered, hey, I'll be the admin. Okay. Did I know anything about Salesforce? No. Did I know how to write code? I had to write Apex code because they had customizations they needed to do. And I had to go research that, learn how to customize the fields and get the data from one place to the next. And I eventually, that's how I became an expert. Well, now I don't use it as much. So maybe I've lost some of my knowledge. But at the time, I was much more proficient. It's hard to become an expert in something until you have a problem to solve with that thing. And the other thing I want to say is be careful of the tools that you choose. So if you want to lean on Salesforce, I think that's a good choice. But there are some tools that they go bust. And now you've spent all of your time becoming an expert in this tool and the tool has disappeared. You're no longer using it. So you got to be very strategic if you're going to specialize on the tool that you choose. I think Salesforce is a safe bet, but there are other tools that could also be not as safe. Yeah.
And also the different tools between Jira and AWS and Azure, is there much difference in how they work?
In Azure and Jira, for example, like Azure DevOps. So Azure has a whole suite of stuff, right? So we're not going to talk about all of the suites, but we do work as BAs more closely with Azure DevOps. There isn't, in concept, it's the same thing, right? It's just that they name it differently. And because you're a back office club member, we do have videos where we go through Azure DevOps. So I can point you to some of those. We can see, we walk through the details, especially, and we compare between Jira and DevOps. But in general, it's the same thing that we're doing in both of these tools. And you don't need to learn much more other tools than these two, to be honest. Any company you're working with, either be Jira or Azure DevOps. They're both doing the same thing, but I would say Jira does it better. Jira is a more superior tool, in my opinion. Don't come from me, DevOps and Microsoft people, right? But Jira is a better tool. Jira has more notifications. It's easier for you to find things. They've done a great job of using up the space. So you can, things pop out and you can see split screens. So it's very easy to work with. DevOps is not that easy to work with, but it does the job. It does the job, but it's not the best. But yeah, they're both very well used. And it would be highly encouraged to learn them both. So yes, one day at the back office club, we'll do another recap of these are the differences between the two tools for sure. All right, Annie, welcome, Annie. Glad to see you again, girl. She there?
Oh, I'm here. I saw Sharon's hand up first.
Oh, Sharon's shaking her head, so I think you can go ahead. We'll get to Sharon after.
Okay. Well, I miss you guys, of course.
Yay!
So when you say generalist, because I'm in healthcare, but like when I applied to like 20 jobs last night. But when you say generalist, for everybody else, is it just like functional BAs or is IT BA? So what?
Yeah. So for you, because Annie's in healthcare, so for you it'd be a healthcare BA. So it feels like it's a specialist, but it's in this vertical of healthcare. So you're a generalist in healthcare. Okay, kind of what it is, right? So I wouldn't want you to specialize in pathology or BA or like that because it's getting too narrow, even though you have the background, but you don't have the BA background in those areas. So I would say for you, it's a generalist healthcare BA. Okay. So you kind of stick with the healthcare role because that's where you have the most expertise. But you are doing business analysis as opposed to what you've been doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Annie. Sharon, go ahead.
Hi. It was just a sort of a question and talking about the specialists in general. Currently, I've got about 3 years in housing and healthcare.
Yeah.
But prior to that, I've got 15 years of the water industry. I really want to get into the energy sector, but that's very hard to get into. There's a lot of old systems, a lot of people get into retirement, so it's hard to get in if you don't know anybody, and
Mm-hmm.
that is good money in that sector.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, and I think because I'm looking for a new role, I'm thinking, do I specialise in what I know best currently to get a new role? Want to get one in about a month's time or so, or
What?
just stay away?
Remind me of what you're currently in again.
Yeah, so I'm in housing and healthcare. So it's housing with health and social care integration.
Okay. Wow. So energy. So the question is that you're in housing and healthcare. You're trying to break into the BA role. The question is, should you stick to your comfort zone, what you know, which is housing and healthcare, or should you try to pivot into energy, which is something that has a higher pay and all that stuff?
Yeah,
I will tell you, energy. You sound like you're from the UK. Energy
yes.
around the world is the same. Like people get in, they never leave. Right? I remember I was interviewing for an energy company.
As well.
Say it again.
It's hard to get on the system
Yes,
because it's
because nobody leaves. That's why you can't get in. Nobody's going nowhere. Over here, I had an interview for an energy company. There was a couple of them, and the people who are interviewing me on the panel, I asked them like, how long have you been? At the end of the interview, I was like chit chatting. I said, how long have you guys been here? Oh, I've been here 30 years. The other one 25. The other one 15. The other one 35. I'm like, what are you guys? I was like, wow. She's like, yeah, this is a place where people, they have long careers and we've been working here for a long time and blah, blah, blah. Needless to say, I didn't get the job. Not because I don't think I did well. It's just because there was other offers I had and I didn't even follow up anyway. But there was a lot of people that have been there over 15 years. They just don't go anywhere. I don't know if it's because how wonderful it is to work with an energy company, the benefits, the time. It's and what they explained to me, what they were working on is obviously a waterfall project. They tend to be very archaic, right? They are used to a lot of documentation. Things don't move very fast. It's just this comfort zone that people get stuck in and they don't leave because they get paid well anyway. So what's the motivation, right? So yeah, energies are one of those companies that, man, it's very difficult to get in, but once you get in, it looks like nobody leaves. So it must be really good once you're in. So
I mean the contracts here. I think it's 800 a day.
ooh,
Role and
800 a day. Look at that.
it's 90,000 plus. So it is a good sector to be in money wise.
There you go.
But it's really hard to get into.
There you go. So my recommendation is don't give up. I mean, $800 a day is great in any of our countries, so that's wonderful. Don't give up, but I would say it's almost like you got to do both, right? You still have to apply for the one that you're likely to get, which is the one that you have the most experience in, which is housing and healthcare. I think healthcare, like I said, that's the third employer of business analysts worldwide. So there should be more opportunities there. So I would say still apply for those jobs and keep eyeing the energy to see if anything opens up. Hopefully they'll call you, but you can't wait on them because again, it takes a long time to get in. So yeah, good luck with that. It's great. 800 a day would be wonderful. I want that for you. I want it for you for sure. All right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Sharon, for sharing that. Okay, does anybody else have any other questions for me? No questions? Okay. So I want to tell you guys about what we have going on at the Back Office Club for December, because we're not going to meet again until the new year, 2026. So we do have our Black Friday deal is still going on. And we have up to 67% off the courses. So if you want to learn with a practical example, because all of the courses are very hands-on. I don't do fluffy stuff where you're sleeping. It's going to be very, very entertaining, but also very true and also very real from real projects. So you learn how to elicit requirements of real projects. You learn how to work on implementation projects. You learn how to do case studies for interview. Like if you have to present to a panel, how would you do that? So I have courses that cover all of those topics, API, stuff like that. The best practices for writing user stories with Jira and with DevOps. Somebody asked about DevOps before. So I have a course that goes through all of that. So those courses are there and they're heavily discounted for Black Friday, up to 67% off. So I would encourage you, if you want to learn those things, now would be the best time to buy that course. And you go to backofficeclub.org/courses to see all the courses that we have. We also have a discount on membership. So if you want to become a member, so in our membership, we have stand-ups, right? Twice a week. So there's lots of touch points with me. Stand-ups, we have live training, we have right now we're doing mock interviews. So you show up and I interview you so we can see how you're answering. That's recorded so you can listen back to yourself. You get pointers as to how you should be conducting yourself in the interview so you can be much more prepared. And I ask you the questions I think the interviewers will ask for the job that you give. So we're doing that. So you join the back office club. We have lots of cool stuff over there. Debbie can tell you, Leticia can tell you, other people on the call can tell you. And for that, there's a 30% discount for your first month's sign up. So you put in the code. If you go to the page, you'll see the code and you get 30% off for that. And then for Christmas, we have a gift card. We have a $100 gift card that you can purchase. And with that gift card, you can attend all of our, not just stand up, all of our sessions for 1 month and you get access to all of our stuff, right, for 1 month. So you attend our stand-ups, you attend our live trainings for professional members, you attend our BA Connect, you attend our Technique Boutique, which is where we get into specific techniques. All of our sessions that we hold for the month, you join those, and you'll be very, very exposed to what we do at the back office club for 1 month, and that is $100, which is a big discount from what we charge for our professional members. Our professional membership is $197 per month. So just with $100, saving almost $100, you can attend all of our sessions. So consider giving yourself the gift of a higher paying career, right? By getting the gift card for Christmas. So that's what we have. Joshua, did we have anything on our idea board for today? We have an idea board that we tend to, for people who don't want to talk, speak up. I can't get to it. So Joshua, if you want to be my spokesperson and read it out today, that would be great. Putting Josh on the spot here.
Okay, I think people haven't used the idea board.
Oh, there's nothing on there? Okay, great. No problem. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Well, guys, we're a little bit over time, but that's all we have for you guys today for the Global BA Stand-Up. Thank you all so much for joining. And don't forget to go pick up your year in review, business analyst year in review that we have on our website. Thank you all. I hope everybody have a wonderful Christmas, a wonderful New Year's, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of you next year in 2026, where we're going to continue to help you grow in your career as a business analyst. All right. Thank you all. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.